2020. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Thanks, Quentin.
2020.
2020, yeah. And then we met again the other evening, and we were just chatting about some stuff. And Claire runs, and maybe you need to introduce yourself because I don't know you well enough, Claire. So,
Okay. Let me go.
On, and we were just talking about financing. Did we just lose somebody, or was it me? Okay. And she was talking about, the entrepreneurs raising money and doing government funds and different things like that. And I said, well, come join the group and tell us what you know about stuff and so on. So hence Claire and Claire, if you like the group and you want to stay, you can stay. We just meet on a weekly basis, but if you do, it's good. It's nice to have some more ladies. We've only got Lisa and Alison.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a bunch of dudes. It's and then they're not even very handsome guys either. I mean, I know I am. Sorry, guys, but you. Anyway, Claire, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kick off.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. Like Tony said, we met at church in 2020 during lockdown, and I particularly remember it being the New Life. I think it was the Alpha group, and Tony's like, no, it can't be Alpha. I'm like, no, it was Alpha. But anyway, I worked my way up the ranks in corporate. I come from the travel industry, and in 2015, after I had been retrenched, I was, in one of those spaces where you're kind of like looking for more because you're so tired of getting up, going to work, coming back from work, having dinner, sitting on the couch, going to sleep, and then doing the same thing again tomorrow. And I was like, no, I need to find something else. And in the time that I was at home, I did my first life coaching course and executive coaching and business coaching course. And that was in 2015. But I knew that I still wanted to give back to the industry that I had worked in. So I still looked for another job, and I worked in the industry until 2020. And I went into working for government. Disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. I am not a funding advisor, but I will tell you what I picked up in the time that I worked for the IDC. So to put it in a nutshell, I am a life coach, a business coach, an executive coach, and a leadership coach. And I work with entrepreneurs. I'm going to say small to medium entrepreneurs, and in corporate, I do a lot of coaching for them as well as training for them as well. And Tony was like, oh, so you know about funding, can you come and speak to the group? I was like, yeah, sure, let me come and speak to the group and tell you a little bit about the funding that I know. Because something that I've learned from the time that I've worked with entrepreneurs is that everybody wants funding, and they think it is such a big mission to get the funding, and they don't know where to start and what it is that they need to do. And it's just too much admin, too much effort, and it doesn't seem like a money-making exercise. So I just don't have the energy for it. And it doesn't have to be that difficult. Yes, it can be time-consuming depending on which department you go to, but they all fall under the DTI, which is the Department of Trade and Industries. So I'm going to assume, because when I prepped, Tony said to me that there's a couple of people that are new entrepreneurs, and then there's a couple that are way longer in the business. So everybody knows about bootstrapping, which is pretty much what almost every entrepreneur does. So you fund your business, and then the business basically pays you back in a loan, right? Everyone knows about that one. And then there's crowdfunding. So you put out like a GoFundMe or something, and you ask people to help raise funds in that perspective, whether it is for a project or for like a startup, a brand new startup, or to increase or expand your business. Now, something a lot of people don't know is that there are a lot of angel investors actually in South Africa. And when I talk about the angel investors, I've got a couple of websites. fsic.net is one of them, josieangels.co.za, investmentnetwork.co.za, dazzleangels.com, which is mostly just for female entrepreneurs. and then soban.org.za. Now, what these angel investors do is, I'm pretty sure everyone has seen the TV series or the different ones. There's been like one in the US, one in the UK, there's even been one in South Africa, where they've got these big shot entrepreneurs that listen to your business or listen to where it is in your business and then decide, are they going to invest in your business or not? So this is all of that with minus the cameras. So you get to speak to investors and tell them about your business. And sometimes they'll give you really valuable advice because they tend to pick up where the pitfalls are, what it is that you're not necessarily doing wrong. Because what I've learned from entrepreneurs as well is that everything that you're doing is right for the time that you are doing it. It's just necessary. It's not necessarily in the right order, or it needs to be worked on a little bit more. It needs to be polished. Okay. So angel investments, they are in South Africa. Then you get what everyone else knows as the bank loans. Bank loans, very big interest rates, and then you pay it back, and it's pretty much a loan from the bank, right? And then you get organizations and foundations. So they literally work on like philanthropic ideas, development, and tech. Sometimes they'll have like they'll have funds at a certain time. It's just being able to look after those or look for them and actually find what suits you, and they will fund you, even if it is just a portion of it. And Africa Global Finder is one of them. NVIDIA is running an incubator program at the moment for anything in tech. Then you get the Bill Gates Foundation. Everyone knows about them, but they are more on the, they do a lot of agricultural work and philanthropic type things. And then comes the government loans. And like everyone goes like, oh, government, like, we really don't want to be dealing with them. So I do not work for the IDC, disclaimer. I worked for them once upon a time, and I just happen to know where certain things sit. So the first thing I'm going to say is, and I know that nobody here is under 35, and it's honestly, it is a crime. Are you under 35? I am. So under 35 is the NYDA. And what they would offer you is a 50,000 Rand, but not in cash. They will give you product, or not product, they will give you equipment to start off a business. So that might be something like a laptop, a printer, whatever it is that you need to get started. So if you're going into dressmaking, for instance, they'll give you the sewing machine as well and some of the equipment that goes with it to get you started. So I always tell people, and a lot of people have this very wrong. They're like, and I know starting my own business, you do not need a business plan to start your business. You need a product or a service that meets a need of a client, the end, okay? But what a business plan is good for is two things. Number one, it is good for operational use. So you want it as your working document. You're going to keep that, and you're going to keep on changing it. And if anything happens to you, you can still have the business running because someone has an operational manual on what is going on in the business. That's your first thing. The second thing is you want it for funding. Now, if you don't know how to do a business plan, there's quite a few templates that you can get started on. It is incredibly important, is one of your compliance things. And we don't always think of compliance being small businesses, but a business plan, you don't have to do it yourself. You can go to an organization called SEDA, that's SEDA, and they will help you write a business plan. They are going to ask you to maybe come back and do some funding with them, and you can decline them at that stage. You've got your business plan. You take your business plan and you go to either the NEF, which is the National Empowerment Fund, or you go to places like the NEF, or you go to SEFA, SEFA. Now, they all belong to pretty much under the same umbrella. IDC is the biggest one out of all of them. SEDA is the smallest out of them. SEDA funds up to 5 million Rand. So up to 5 million Rand. NEF does most of the industries, just not logistics. Logistics, most of them try and stay away from because with the trucking, there's just too many variables and too many risks. So most of the funding you're going to get is through banks. And then you get the IDC. Now, the NEF, I think, goes all the way up to, I think it's like 50 or 100 million or something. And the IDC goes up into the billions. You take your business plan to them. They'll take you through a process. And that process is not a long process. It just depends on who you are speaking to. But the same like when you are dealing with a customs person at the airport. Yes, please, and thank you all the time. You are at their mercy. You say yes, you say please, and you say thank you. And if you are really nice to them, they will push stuff through a little quicker. But their hands are also only tied to a certain point, because the process that the funding application goes through, it goes through your application phase where you fill out your application form. They do due diligence on you. So they would ask you for certain things like your ID number, the business plan. They would ask you for things like your tax details. If you are tax registered, they will ask you for your business documents. But if you had gone to CEDA before, they would have done all of that. So they would have checked the compliance for you. And then you just literally take it to the IDC and it shortens the process for you, because then they go, okay, so you've got all your documents in order. Let's have a look and see what we can do. So it will go through a committee. The committee will then go, okay, this is a really good business to invest in. This is what we want to do. And you would literally, they would give you working capital. So money that you can use in that time to actually pay salaries, buy parts or supplies or whatever it is in the entire time. They do not give you out a full lump sum anymore, because people obviously have taken the lump sums and run. Okay, so what they do is they do drawdowns. So they will say to you, you need X amount for 6 months. They give you the amount for 6 months. And after the 6 months, after 7 months, then you then come back to them and they then give you another drawdown, depending on how you have it structured. And the drawdowns literally are amounts for that entire time, which includes your working capital and then whatever it is that you needed. So if you wanted to buy a bigger machine, for instance, it gives you the capital to do that. It gives you the money to do that. Some of the others that I probably did not mention in terms of the government funding is that you get places like land bank, which is if you want money or you want actual land, they will loan you the land until such time as you actually own it as the business. And most of them are in business because they want to help. But with circumstances, like I said, if you are walking through a customs, you speak nicely to them and you tell them what it is and how you are struggling, and they will do their best to help you. They will give you a business development manager. They call it different names in whatever. And it's literally like an account manager that will be almost working on your case throughout. So you get contact details from them. And essentially, they try their best to get funding out within a minimum of 6 weeks. And depending on how much funding it is that you're looking for and the complexity of your business, it might take longer, up to 6 months. So it's not like all of them are, and I'm not speaking on their behalf, I'm telling you what I have seen working for them. It's not that they are looking, they want to make your life miserable or they want to make it hectic. They will try their best to help you wherever they can. So where I come in is as a life coach, and yes, you've got to be a life coach before you can be a business coach or before you can be any of the other coaches, is I help people with their self-awareness. So, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this, and it's not that you are not self-aware. It's sometimes you doubt yourself. You don't have that sounding board. You don't have someone that you can bounce an idea off, or you can reflect on what it is that you need to do or have done and make better decisions. Number one. Number two, I work with mindset, because what I found with a lot of entrepreneurs is we think too small. We don't think big enough. We go for something and we're like, okay, so I've got my business, I've got a couple of clients, I'm fine, I don't need to. I'm not asking you to work 24/7. There's things like automation. There's things like certain business tools that sometimes, and unless you've gone to a business school, which I have, you don't necessarily learn those things. And I help you with a couple of business skills at the same time. So I help remove all of the self-doubt and the indecision that there is. And I help people create a more positive mindset, not just towards themselves, but also towards money. And a lot of entrepreneurs, what I find they struggle with as well is they don't respect money. It's their money block. And then they wonder why they are not making the millions and the billions that they have. It's because they've had a mindset that's been cultivated by parents that said to them, where do you think money comes from? Growing on trees, things like that, because it tells you that there is a cap on the amount of money that you can make, and we need to unravel that. Okay. Other things that you can possibly do to show what your relationship is with money. If you've gone out to the shops and you come back with a whole lot of change, do you just take it and like plonk it on the cupboard or on the side table and carry on walking? Or do you take it and you put it into a little piggy bank or into your purse or your wallet? How are you actually handling those things? And in terms of the business, so it's not that you don't have the business skills, but sometimes you need someone that is a partner with you. So like a silent business partner that you can bounce ideas off, maybe not have an argument with, but say, Claire, this is what I think I want to do. And then I'll go like, is this the best option? Are there any options? Have you thought of any options? What options are those? What have you explored? What haven't you explored? How long is this going to take? By when do you think you're going to have it done? And me going through that process, you come to a whole lot of realizations, and it speeds up the process. So working with a coach is not just, and I'm not here to just sell my services, but working with a coach is not just about, oh, so I'm going to pay that person money and they're going to tell me things, they're going to advise me. No, I'm not going to advise you. It's your life. I'm a partner to you, so I'm going to be that sounding board that you need when you need it the most. When it comes to making certain decisions, those decisions that we want to take or have taken, we sometimes like self-doubt and then we go into a downward spiral. We don't sleep properly. So we want balance. And it's not just about work-life balance, because I don't believe it completely exists, but I believe that you can have a little bit more balance, or a little bit more, it can be a little bit more equal and set you at the right foot, because you are your business, you are your brand. And in your business itself, if there is no you, there's no business and there's no longevity. And unless you've set yourself up really well and you've now got a legacy for your kids. But without the business plan, without you, and without your input and your time, your sweat, your energy, there is no business, right? So you've got to be looking after yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically. And it kind of deals with a lot of the mental aspects, but not the mental as in like a mental illness. The difference between a counselor or a psychologist and a life coach, they deal with the past, and they deal with a lot of, I'm not going to say not just trauma, but they deal with the past. They stay in the past. Whereas I am more future focused, I'm solution driven, and I want to help you to the next step. So we would set goals. If it means that you need some help with your social media, I would do a mini audit on that, because I've become an expert in social media, seeing that I run all my own social media. Marketing. So what it is that you're marketing to, where you're doing it, when you're supposed to be doing it, and how often you need to do it. One of the problems I had starting a business was I was hoping someone would say to me, Claire, you need to do this every Monday at 9 o'clock. And I am not a regimented person. I don't run according to schedules. But one of the biggest problems entrepreneurs have is that there is nobody there to tell them when they need to do something and by when they need to do it and how they need to do it. It's all trial and error. You work through certain things at a certain time. And then if you get it right, then yay, it's one less thing off your long to-do list. And then if it doesn't work out, it means back to the drawing board. I need to rework this until I get it right. The difference between a successful entrepreneur and an entrepreneur that is struggling is a successful entrepreneur will find out how can I make this happen? And one that is struggling, that gives up, will be like, I can't make this happen. It literally is it's a mindset, and we know this every day, that we choose to be successful. We choose to do certain things, and along the lines of wanting to help you think a little differently, I've got my favorite poem, and I hope that you're going to enjoy it. And yes, I've got it stuck on my wall with plastic, because it is a reminder to me every morning when I come and I sit at my desk. After I've done my prayers and I've done my meditation and I've spent my time with God, I come and I read this prayer, and it just really, it lifts me. So I'm going to close and I'm going to read this prayer, this poem to you. And I'm sure that you've heard it before. I'm going to try my best to read it, and maybe you'll have a couple of penny drops for you at different stages. Here we go. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We are born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just within some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And that's by Marianne Williamson. Thank you for having me. And I will answer any questions if I can.
You just put it on. So, thanks, Claire. Thanks very much for that. Really appreciate it. That I know that poem very well. Didn't Nelson Mandela quote that? I think when he
did
something. A lot of people actually say it was him who wrote it, but it wasn't. And
yeah.
While you're reading it, I was like, I wonder who actually wrote that. So thank you, Marianne Williamson.
Yeah.
Well, just writing that down. Very good. Questions, guys, around funding, coaching?
Hi, Lisa.
You're on mute, Lisa. Lisa, you're on mute.
Sorry, there you go. Yeah, I'm on my iPad as well, which is not standing up this morning. So I've got a little bit of difficulty there. I just wanted to ask a question. When you mentioned all those organizations, one of them you actually spoke about funds foundations.
Yeah, so foundations is like your Bill Gates foundations, your Zuckerberg foundations. They have got offices Bill Gates has got offices in South Africa, yeah, in Johannesburg, actually, and we don't even know about that. The Zuckerberg Foundation, they mostly take applications online, and they would also have a list of criteria. So with any of the criteria, take it as a tick box exercise. And when I say tick box exercise, I don't mean like, okay, so I've done that tick. I mean like do everything well for that particular thing and then tick the box.
So they will fund foundations.
They will fund foundations. Places like the NEF and even the IDC will also fund foundations.
So the IDC, you said, oh, sorry, the
IDC,
NEF and the
IDC, so the Industrial Development Corporation.
Okay, and they will fund foundations.
Depending on the actual foundation or what the foundation does, they might look at it, yes. If not, then they have got CSI teams that would maybe do something for the foundation. Now, I'm not saying they would come and they would paint the walls as normal CSI teams do. They would literally do something that would be of benefit to your organization.
Okay, that's good to know, yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
On the non-profit side, guys, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of non-profit guys. I mean, Zuckerberg and Gates and things are really big. But they're actually actively looking for things. So because that's their mandate. Their mandate is to go out and find the right thing to invest in and then to invest in it. Now, when I say invest, it's normally philanthropic, as Claire said. So if you're on, but they mostly look for non-profits. So, you know, Campaigning for Cancer, for example, we work with a few of these things, but typically you've got to have a project or something where you fit into their mandate. And so and same thing with VCs and angels and different organizations, not so much the government, but certainly with angels or VCs or foundations, you need to paint yourself into their picture. So spend time on their website, find out. So if they've got a fund for agriculture and you want to raise a fund on tech, they're not going to fund you, right? Because they're going to be looking for agriculture. However, you will find a nonprofit or a foundation that is focused on your nonprofit or the things that you're doing. So it helps.
So under the Zuckerberg, so it's Mark's wife, and the initiative makes grants to organizations working in support of their missions, which is science, education, and justice and opportunity. So as well as giving directed to the local communities, grants are awarded via funding entities. So the Zuckerberg Foundation, or the Zuckerberg Initiative Donation Advised Fund. So that's DAF. So they've got like two already. And then you also get like things like the Human Fund. And the Human Fund, so they either look for a bit of debt, they would either like give you debt, so as in like a loan, or equity. And the fund investments invest in companies leading innovation in handheld, social power, solar power, cooks, stoves, off the grid generation, so that type of thing. There's a whole lot of them. It's just like looking for the funds online and then like meeting their requirements and making sure that your requirements fit into what their mission is.
Yeah. Gary, I saw a hand, and Ralph, I've got a question. Let's go, Gary.
Claire, yeah, thanks for the message today. I think it's good that you've got a growth mindset and that you helped a lot of people. I think most companies, I'm not talking about the capital asset requirements. I'm talking about generally people don't need funding, they need the right mindset. What is your message to entrepreneurs now with the changing environment? We've just had a meeting with some business people, and it's amazing that some sectors are powering ahead. And I mean, we've just had about 5 restaurants close here in our area here in Sandton. It's just sad, but there's some businesses really suffering, and some manufacturers that we deal with that are just powering ahead and having their best months. What's your advice to entrepreneurs like starting out now? I know you gave a few ideas, but what's your mindset advice? Because there's so much good and like bad and like things going on. What would you say to someone wanting to start a business? But not about collecting money, they must bootstrap their business.
Yeah. So in terms of mindset, it depends on the upbringing. So your mindset is literally cultivated by your upbringing, and that is the social aspect about it, but it's also things that you would have seen. It's through your senses. So what you would have seen, heard, smelled, tasted, or touched. That's how your mindset, because it builds like a database in your brain or filing cabinet in your brain of things that this worked well for me. I must remember this to do this next time, or this did not work out well. I do not like this. I therefore have a fear for it, and I don't want to go anywhere near it. And it's those things that start cultivating a mindset, and we struggle as adults to start breaking down those things and figuring out where those trigger points were. And if you do not have a very healthy mindset, and I'm gonna be that person and say it right now, that 2020 to 2022 has been the most grueling. I've written a couple of articles for the Brains magazine as well. People that had problems before, and when I say problems, I mean like in the nicest possible sense, lovingly, that had whatever issues they had prior to COVID, COVID literally highlighted it. And it's in that time as well where people came up with a lot of mental issues. And because we are social, and I'm not just talking South Africa, we need as humans, we need relationships. We were cooped up at home without the relationships and without the social aspect of it. And yes, Zoom was there, it was great. Teams was there, and there's a place for it. But we are also very outgoing, like as South Africans. So our freedom was taken away from us, and our need to socialize. So anxiety and depression are at all-time highs. And it's almost like it's had a latent or a delayed effect. It didn't come out at the time, it came out after the time. So people started going through like depression, anxiety, mental breakdowns in 2021, and it's still continuing now. So your mindset is very important, but it is a personal journey, because what you've experienced and what your brother experienced, for instance, can be two totally different things, because it includes your life experience. And we would only pick up, or you would only pick up what your mindset is if you talk about it or you talk certain things. And I know that Tony did say to me that we are not all Christian on here, but everyone knows Proverbs, and they know like life and death is in the power of the tongue. It's biblical, and it's even manifest, it's even shown itself right now that whatever you are thinking comes out in your mouth, but you are almost speaking it over your life again. So if there's a bit of a negative piece to it, then you need to work on it. If there's more positive, more growth, and not so fixed, then yeah, then you're doing great. But it's not to say that someone that has a fixed mindset is not doing well. Maybe that's where they need to be. Maybe that's their path. They haven't reached where they need to be in terms of the growth mindset just yet. And a lot of, and I'm going to say this, entrepreneurs and companies, South Africa is only catching on now the value of having a life or business coach in their lives with them, or spending time with them, because they now realize that actually, you know what, I was looking after the business side of things, but without me, there is no business. So I'm actually needing to look after myself now. And it's like we're almost there catching and putting out fires. And it's mostly because people, again, this perception thing and the way society is, and it's changing, it is changing still slowly, but where people don't want to go and see a psychiatrist or psychologist because people are going to think there's something wrong with me. And I'm like, society has done us a huge injustice. I mean, like, big boys don't cry, and, you know, things like that. So it depends on your personal journey, but I've got a business coach. I've got a life coach. And I can't exactly tell you to go and get yourself one without having one myself, number one. But number two, always make sure that you feel comfortable with the person as well, because it is, like I said, a personal journey. And sometimes you divulge a lot, and you're like, oh, I didn't mean to actually say that, and you feel uncomfortable or something. Number one, it's no judgment. So it is a safe space for you to share. It should be a safe space for you to share. And number two, you want someone that's going to partner with you, that is looking after your best interests. So, you know, if I can put a little guardian angel that is like, yes, 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 do this, or no, 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 don't do that, without giving you the actual advice, and just being there every step of the way. Because, like, I don't know about you, but as an entrepreneur, I've got an ever-growing list of to-do stuff. And sometimes it's even like the prioritization or the time management. And I'm like, okay, so what do I have to do now? Do I have to do this first or that first? And, or how much time do I actually spend on this? And like, okay, so I've put in all these hours today, but like, was it really a productive day? It's things like that where we start doubting ourselves. And I don't know like how long everyone has been in business, but the value in having, even if it's just a life coach to help you through certain things, like in your personal life, they are incredibly well trained to assist with things like outside of where you can't make sense of something. A lot of my entrepreneurs have come to me and said, Claire, I'm feeling stuck. And I'm like, no, you are not stuck. You are just not seeing the opportunities. So let's help get you unstuck. And it literally is, because I'm an NLP practitioner, it's one session to get someone unstuck. And then like their mind just goes, whoop, I've got so many different ideas now. I didn't even know this was in me, and thank you so much. I've been wasting my resources. It works. It works. Hope that answered you, Gary. Yes,
Well,
Val.
Yes, Claire, thank you. That your whole talk was excellent. We were talking funding, and then we've gone into life coaching, but I mean that's so interesting. Your insights are great. I just had a question on the IDC, and then also want to make a comment on that. You spoke about getting funding from the IDC, but my question was, what are they typically asking in for return? Is it debt? Is it equity? What's your experience there? And then I want to share my experience with the IDC.
So it is debt. So certain companies, if it's like a really big company or whatever, then they might want a bit of equity in it, because then they become a shareholder in the business and it pays off more long term. Okay. But I don't know how big of an entrepreneur we have in the room right now, but for most of
we're all huge.
You all huge. That's the best place on. So then they might ask for a bit of equity, or they might ask, and it literally would be a small portion, because at the end of the day, what they want is they want the business to grow. Because if your business is not growing, you can't pay back the loan.
Sure. So thank you. Just a quick comment. Tony knows the story, but I don't know, Tony, remind me how long ago, maybe 20 years ago, we applied for what they called a SPY grant. And it was a sort of an innovation grant. So you had to be doing something innovative, and then they would fund it up to a maximum of 3 million Rand. But I mean, there was a lot of money in 20 years ago when we were still relatively small business. And so we had to spend the 3 million Rand, and then they paid back 1.5 million Rand. And I do remember that funding, Tony, it was a lifesaver for our business. At that time, without that 1.5 million, times would have been extra tough. But that funding actually really did help Dovetail grow to where it is today. So it was something really practical, and I see they don't do that kind of funding anymore. So that was something we didn't have to pay back. That was just, here's 1.5 million Rand because you did an innovative project. So that was really nice. So I guess it's got a bit tougher, but that's also good. And then just my other comment is, in the COVID period, we also took out a COVID loan, because through the banks, COVID had that sort of funding structure. But the only reason we took it out was just to be cautious, because when we went into COVID, we didn't actually know how long and how hard is this thing going to be. So as a precautionary measure, we actually took out the loan. And those terms were also quite good. It was sort of at prime. We can pay it back at any point without any penalties. So yeah, that was just another mechanism of funding. But I think my comment is, before you go out and get funding, make sure you actually need it, because you can actually go out, get the funding, and maybe use it for different purposes, or, you may not even need the funding. Before you go and get funding and suddenly you owe a whole lot of money, just make sure you got a solid business case behind it that makes sense why you're actually getting that funding. And in some ways, if you can avoid the funding, even better, because then obviously you're not giving up the equity, or you're not sitting with a loan after the event.
Agreed. So I know that just depending on where you actually go within the DTI, so the DTI is right at the top, and then the IDC and CEDA, CIFA, all the others are under this umbrella. They might have incubator programs, but they are literally for like completely new startups. They're not going to be for someone that is like 20 years into the business or something like that. So I know that there's I think it's nvidia.com, Nvidia. So Nvidia, as in like the gaming on laptops or whatever, they've got an incubator program for tech at the moment. And you can like register via their website. But what they do is they sometimes would have like a project or whatever it is, but it would have like a purpose or would be within a theme of something. So maybe it might be like we've just come out of June, like not last month, the month before. So if it was like anything to do with like youth development, if you were doing something with the youth, and then maybe you could have, and this is just an example, then maybe they would have like a fund for businesses to empower within the youth, like take on people or youngsters or whatever. And the youth is up to the age of 35, by the way. So yeah, we learned this with Julius, but thanks, Julius. So up to the age of 35, and if you help them with their business or whatever it is, it's a project, then maybe they would have like a fund set up specifically for that. But I mean, like it's Women's now, and I haven't seen anything, or I haven't really looked for anything to see if there was anything for women in business with regards to the funding or the funding structure. And yes, I totally agree with you. Don't take a loan that you don't need. Yeah, don't take a loan that you don't need. And even with the funding options, I just want to give you an example as well. So IDC, I didn't know this when I started working at the IDC, part of my onboarding, they said to us, so a lot of people don't know some of the brands that were funded by the IDC. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, let's listen to this. So you would think of like, I don't know which companies you think of, but the IDC has been running for like 70 years or something ridiculous, right? And Omar Rusks, everyone, it's a household brand. Like you either have it in your house or you know it because you've seen it on the shelf. Omar Rusks was funded by IDC.
Interesting, yeah.
I think it's either Cecil or Engine. I think it's Cecil, was funded by IDC. Colibri Towels in South Africa is still being funded by IDC. I think the funding might be ending now, but they were funded by IDC. And in a lot of these cases, sometimes what they would do is if they are funding or they buy into, or they get equity of something, right? They wouldn't just have a like a case manager or an account manager or something. Sometimes they actually put in someone that has business experience within the IDC to be working at the company. So I'm not saying they're going to come and work for you at Dovetail, but they seconded someone from IDC to be the CEO at Colibri Towels. There's a lot of farms. There's a lot of like IDC standing for Industrial Development Corporation. So they really do want to develop. It just depends like what it is that you're looking for.
I understand they're one of the very successful departments in in that quasi government space. So, and very profitable as well, which is nice to hear.
Yeah. They are not,
okay,
not
thank you.
government owned. They are half private, half government.
Okay.
It's just they still report into municipality.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some big guys. Gajima AST. I remember talking with the CEO some years ago, probably about 5 years ago, and he got most of his funding to expand into Africa through IDC.
Yeah.
Or DPI, I think it was IDC, and it was in the form of a loan. And I remember him saying it's not cheap money. It's not a cheap loan, but it's very patient. That was his comment. So he says you'll make more money in Africa selling up in Africa than you will paying the interest off the loan. So he said they had the money. They put in millions and millions and millions. That was a huge amount of money for them Kajima to actually get up into Africa. And then as they did well, then they paid so they took equity, but the equity you buy back sort of almost in the form of a loan. So you go, well, we can buy this back, and the term sheet says you can buy it back at the principal plus 12% or something, or whatever it was. So you can do that. Claire, what about the B aspect of raising funds? I think a lot of people, there's two things I find when coming to raise funds. One is you go out there and everyone goes, no, you're too old. In other words, you've been in business too long. As you're saying, you know, we need youth under 35 or startups, or no, you're too early stage and you don't have enough, you don't have enough track record and you don't have enough something else. I've never found where the sweet spot is between, you know, you're too early or you're too late. One. The other one we get in South Africa a lot is yeah, your shareholding is not there aren't enough people of non-color or color, you know, on your shareholding, and so it's a pointless exercise trying to get the thing. But people don't necessarily tell you that up front, but they're the rules behind it. Can you talk about some of that stuff?
Okay, so the first thing is, so NEF, CEDA, CIFA, they've got like almost I don't want to call it an incubator program, but it is a coached program for brand new entrepreneurs. So even if they say to you, oh no, sorry, you don't have enough qualification, it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish, because they would take on entrepreneurs that they see value in, number one, their business. They believe that the person is capable or has the right mindset to actually go into business. And they would take them through a program, and the program might be like I don't know, 3 months or 6 months or whatever, and then give them funding after they've taken them through this program. So almost like upskill them in terms of business stuff. So it would include a bit of finance or business acumen, that type of thing. And then they would fund them afterwards. In terms of BE, yeah, so BE, I don't know how to get around that one. But I do know that if you work with a BE advisor or consultant or something, they can tell you how to up your BE score. So if it means that you get yourself, if you are in the stage where you can actually employ people, then you employ people of color, people that were previously disadvantaged, people that have a disability. They all count towards a point of getting, so it might not necessarily be in the shareholding portion itself, it might be in the people that you've actually employed. It might be in what your BE rating is with regards to the suppliers that you hold. So who supplies your business? Or yeah.
I think most of us probably understand BE certificates quite well. Vic.
Yeah.
I'm off mute. Great. So thanks, Claire. Thanks for the update. Very interesting in terms of the information. Quick question. Other than the life coaching stuff that you do you assess people's businesses and give them a sort of general consultation as to what direction they should take?
So, no, I am not an advisor, but I am going to sit with you and I'm going to say to you, okay, so what's actually going on in the business? Okay, so these are your numbers. Is this making a profit? Are you going to expand, or are you wanting to like go in a different direction? I am never going to give you advice. And the reason why I'm never going to give you advice is because if I give you advice, you're going to hold me to the advice, but you might not do it out of your own free will, number one. And
what I meant was not necessarily the financial advice, but general consultation in terms of which direction to go with regards to going to get funding. So, you know, if you look at, for example, you know, this is a youth initiative, etc. My suggestion would be go to IDC or go that kind of advice more so.
Okay, so what business are you in?
No, I work with the youth. So I have an online platform that develops the youth through critical and process thinking skills. So if one was to show you what one does, would you be the kind of person who would say, okay, this is probably where you can go and get, you know, look for funding or look for support?
Are you looking for funding, or could you possibly look at partnership as well? So when I say partnership, I'm not asking that you partner with someone and be like, okay, so they've got stakes in my business and I'm now with them and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm saying if you partner with them, they would literally almost be your mouthpiece, because they would be saying, okay, so Vikela Rankin from X, Y, and Z company does a fantastic job with regards to the youth. So if you partner with the NYDA working specifically just with youth, I would actually take a business proposal to them and try and get a presentation and say to them, listen, so this is what I do. This is how I think I can help you in your business, and see if you can get a partnership instead of just like the funding.
Okay. Good point.
Oh, sorry, my microphone's on mute. Yeah, it's very good. I think with the BE thing, Claire, you'll find a lot of it is not necessarily the certificate. To be honest with you, they look at it and they just go, what's your shareholding? When it comes to a lot of the funding, and that's it. It's something which I've worked quite a bit with angels and VCs. And it's amazing actually how many of them will not fund a business, or even young entrepreneurs. I mean, I'm talking about kids in their 20s coming out of stuff if they're the wrong color. And it's sort of swung the other way. And I think, well, you know, it's hectic because you've got a lot of young people with some great ideas or whatever, but they're not fulfilling some of the things, so that we go from one ditch to another. Chase, I can see your hand up.
Hi guys, so I'm just in the car, so our camera's been off. Yeah, Claire, thanks for your time today. My question is more so centered around my business. I run an indoor soccer arena, and there's always been sort of big opportunity for some sort of NPO structure within that, in terms of trying to get kids from the poorer communities out to spend some time playing soccer there, and possibly organizing food for them, because we've also got a bar and kitchen on site as well as there's like a little library that was donated. So there's opportunity around that. But in terms of structuring a non-profit program like that, where you've got guys transporting kids to and from the informal settlements, can they do it during the day? Is there sort of funding available for that kind of thing? Who would we approach? It's always been something we'd like to do, because we're very charity driven, but just not really sure how to structure the logistics around that. I don't know if you can find that kind of thing also sort of assist from a logistical point of view.
Okay, in terms of funding, you could go the foundations, you could go to government, but I'm going to say that you'll probably end up getting more from corporates. So corporate South Africa, the big corporates. The places that I would consider is maybe something that does a lot with regards to soccer. So they are either in the soccer industry, or they do a lot of sponsorships for soccer.
Yeah. So something like an MTN perhaps? Something
like an MTN, yeah. So you wouldn't necessarily go the alcoholic beverage route, because obviously it's kids. But yeah, so MTN, maybe, I don't know, Momentum was at some stage, but I know they do more of cricket. So like partnering with the Momentum, for instance, on a cricket pitch would make perfect sense, because they are affiliated to cricket. They are the cricket sponsor. Other ones that you might want to look at.
But do you think I would need to?
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I was just going to ask, do you think that from a logistical point of view, and sort of having a business plan, that would need to be all done on our end before approaching guys like that for funding? Or is that something that some of these guys might be keen or have appetite to get on board with as well? Because, like, for argument's sake, I mean, in terms of the logistics of liaising with the underprivileged communities and organizing what days and what times that we can do the events, and then obviously getting transport for the kids and all of that kind of stuff is something that's very outside our wheelhouse, but obviously very necessary to make something like this happen.
Okay, so you probably would need to do a bit of planning around it. Yeah, you've got a business plan for your current business, Chase?
No, not for our current business. So sorry, I don't know if the signal's not great.
Okay.
So we don't have a business plan for our current business. We basically what our current business is, and we run the bar and grill as well. So basically, guys like myself will get together with a bunch of mates, sign up a team, and then we host and administer that league. It's all centrally based within our venue. It's not like we have a team that goes somewhere else and guys that come to us. It's purely based in our venue. So it would be looking to do something similar, maybe with some coaching or something for the kids, but obviously it would be a separate section to what we are already doing currently.
Thank you. So, okay. To get any sort of funding that or any sort of help, even on the NPO side, they are going to ask for a business plan. So I would suggest that you go to one of the CEDA offices and you tell them that you've already got this business plan and you need a bit of funding. So you need to get a business plan. Can they please help you write the business plan? And then they will write the business plan for you. They can ask you a whole lot of questions, seem a bit monotonous, but you'll have a really good sound business plan that you can take from them and then go and approach some of the corporates. And you can, I'm going to give you an example. So a friend of mine is running an NPO, quite wealthy. It's called LBA, and she does, she's a lawyer and she's working in Diepsloot, working with women that have been raped, molested, abused, that type of thing. And she fights their cases for them in court. And she was like, yeah, you know, when you start looking for funding, it's like nobody's there. And then all of a sudden, she's got a car that they brought for her. Okay. They funded her a car. Okay. She says, Claire, I've got no need for this car. I would rather I had money that I could do something for these women when they come into my offices. I need a psychiatrist, I need a whatever at that particular time, and I don't have the money for it. Now I've got this car that I've got to pay insurance for that is sitting in my garage.
Yeah.
That's what government does.
Okay.
Yeah. So that the CEDA or CIFA, when we first started Next Level and we were running sort of 80, 100 people, and Robin in the early days came in, we actually were going to work with, I can't remember whether CEDA or CIFA, and we were actually going to run the ongoing program for entrepreneurs once they came into the program and they got funding, and Next Level was going to be the sort of the how do you develop your business and how do you run it from there. But we got terribly frustrated with them. So we just left and we didn't pursue it any further. We had quite a few meetings and they're doing some really good stuff. But again, you are sometimes dealing with government and things like that. But I have heard some of the things are very good on the other side. I think most people here are sort of a little bit further on down the line anyway with their business. But yeah, guys, it's 2 minutes past 10, and I'm conscious of time. Thanks everybody. Claire, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us today. Guys, if anybody wants to get hold of Claire, Claire, you can, I'll put Claire's info on the group, on the WhatsApp group. So then you've got it. Sorry, I was going to say stick it in the chat, but just now everyone's going to leave and then they're not going to have access to the chat. So I'll put it on the WhatsApp group for you all. Please contact Claire if you ever want to come and join us again or join. We basically are that sort of accountability. That's what we do with each other. We sort of toss business ideas around, but it is a sort of it's a free platform for the guys who want to join, and we try and keep it sort of small-ish. It's not a commercial venture, but we're here to sort of learn from each other and encourage and do all sorts of different things. If you want to know more about it, you can always call me and I'll let you know more about it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, guys, have a great week.
Thanks, everyone.
And we'll see you all later.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.